Hey folks, David Stewart here. Buy a book. This is a good one, Eyes on the Walls. Just Google them. Garmish and the Farmer. That one was free for a long time. It's a great book. It's a fairy tale. This one will teach you how to be creative. Because I'm not just a writer, I also play guitar. Is guitar YouTube, and specifically metal YouTube, is it dead? Is it stale? My thesis is that it is stale because metal is stale. Let me back up a little bit. Watched a video by Jared Dines. It's a great video. Maybe I'll link it down below. He's asking this question about, is guitar YouTube dead? And he does mention a little bit about working for the robot, among other reasons why it might be dead. He's taken a lot of time off from doing content to tour with his band, like doing the actual musician thing, which is great, which is what most of us really just want to do. We want to play music, not just make YouTube content. And he's like, I've stopped making YouTube content whenever I felt like I wasn't excited to do it, wasn't inspired to do it, or like there wasn't something cool I could do on YouTube. And I think that's a great attitude to have if you can do it. But when it comes to working for the robot, what I mean by this, and I've mentioned it several times, is when you start doing stuff like on YouTube, you are working for an algorithm, right? You're trying to get the algorithm to direct viewers onto your videos, which in turn will help you to make money. And so when you do a video and it gets a lot of views, what is the robot telling you? I want you to make more videos like that. So that's usually what people end up doing. Unfortunately, what happens is that over time, the audience loses interest in that. And Jared does go over this, is that the audience was really excited about what you did at first, but then they're less excited because they've already seen that. And the other thing is, content creators will work really, really, really hard to gain success. And by the time they gain the success, they've basically said everything they cared about saying, right? They've said and done it all. And they're out of things to say and out of things to do. And I've definitely been there. Like, I haven't reinvented myself a whole bunch of times, but I've certainly stopped talking about certain things and stopped doing certain things on the channel because I wasn't passionate about them. And I felt like I was just saying the same things over and over again. There's no reason for me to keep reviewing new Star Wars media. I'm just going to say the same thing I said about the last, 4 or 5 Star Wars movies or Star Wars series that are, there's no heart to them. They're just manneristic copies without a soul. Materialistic, not mythological the way Lucas's films were. I'll just be saying that over and over again. So why bother? Like, why bother with that? That doesn't excite me. I don't get excited to watch that. It's like, oh, I have to work at watching this so that I can make a video. No, I don't want to do that, right? So when you start working for the robot, you are trying to please this master who's not giving you specific instructions. Rather, he's giving you feedback like a dog and ringing a bell, right? He's giving you a Pavlovian feedback. Oh, I like that kind of content. You should do more of that content. And so eventually, we've seen it with lots of YouTubers. Why aren't no one's watching the videos anymore? Like, YouTube is shutting off my traffic. The audience may also just have gotten bored because you're doing the same thing over and over again. And the robot can be fickle, but the robot is only going to direct audience people to videos that they're going to watch the whole video on, that they appear to be interested in. So that's the flip side of it. So my thesis, though, I'm circling back around to my thesis, which is that metal YouTube is stale mostly because metal is stale. Metal as a genre has become very crystalline over the last 15 years, maybe longer. What we got, say, if we're looking at the timeline of metal, you had sort of a birth and a growth and an explosion, and then you started to have some different subgenres, some different genreification in metal starting in the 80s. You had like thrash metal. You had started having doom metal stuff and black metal and death metal eventually in the as we move into the 90s, death metal and black metal. And you had gothic metal. You started having all these different little genres of metal until the 2000s. We got this explosion where we're having, extreme power metal. That's the Dragon Force thing, right? And when we first heard Dragon Force, it was really exciting because it was like, well, this is like gamma ray on steroids, It really blew us away back in like the very early 2000s. This is before Guitar Hero or any of that kind of stuff. We were listening to Dragon Force, and it was exciting. It was really exciting to hear those new synthesis of different genres in metal, whether it was something like Dragon Force or something more esoteric. To hear what Dark Throne, for instance, was doing at the time was really fun. because you never knew quite what to expect. I remember loving Isan's music after Emperor broke up because it was just so creative. Like he was just bringing so many new and different ideas into that soundscape. However, I would say definitely since 2010, we've had things become more crystalline to where I can pick out a random power metal band off of Spotify and they will sound almost identical to every other power metal band. Their songs will be constructed in the same way. They'll use the same guitar tone. They'll have a singer that uses almost the same tone. They're using keyboards in the same way. Their solos sound the same. They almost sound like they're copying solos from each other. All their solos start to sound like technical exercises. It gets very stale. And power metal used to be a really, really, really creative genre in the 90s and the early 2000s. There was so much cool stuff in power metal. You never knew what you were going to expect. You had stuff like Blind Guardian, which was just so different from like Gamma Ray. And they're both just German power metal bands, but they sounded so different from each other. And you just don't get that anymore. You have legacy acts that are just sounding like their legacy act selves, like Halloween or Camelot. Camelot's always doing something a little bit new with every single album, and I'm always interested to hear what they do. Or Dream Theater, right, is always doing something new with every album. But it feels like once we get into the genres, and like because like Camelot's really more in the prog metal area these days. It went from power metal and got more progressive until now I hear them and they really are a prog metal band. That's my opinion. I know that the drummer from Camelot sometimes watches these videos, so I would love to know what genre he thinks Camelot happens to occupy at this particular point in time. But the point is, I don't hear a lot of bands that are continuing to push their sound forward. What I hear is a lot of younger bands that just kind of have a sound, and that sound is in the genre, and it's just kind of there. So metal has become pretty stale. And all of that content creation, the metal content creation, is downstream of whatever is happening in the genre as a whole, whatever's happening in the community as a whole. And the fact is, it's declined and it's become stale. And if I were to kind of make an analogy, its trajectory is somewhat like that of jazz. I talked about this in a blog article some time ago. What happened with jazz is that jazz eventually became very set in its ways, which is something difficult to do for an improvisational kind of music. But we started to see in jazz an adherence to the rules. Jazz has to sound a certain way. It has to have a certain instrumentation. There's a certain kind of drum pattern that you always have to use in jazz. There's a certain comping style that you have to use on piano. And if you're doing something different, then that's not jazz. That's something else. And that's came at a very long period of genreification of jazz, where we had cool jazz, we had different styles emerge and avant-garde. What eventually happened with jazz is that once it became very much a cultural, historical product, it became rather frozen in time. And this was something Miles Davis actually lamented. And once that happened, it started being taught at the universities, and then you knew that like nothing new was really going to happen in jazz. You're going to have to look elsewhere. Metal's not being taught in universities, luckily. So there's still plenty of opportunity for new things to happen in the metal space. But I'm not hearing them. Nobody's directing me towards them, and I'm not hearing them. Instead, what I'm hearing is something like Sleep Token, which to me is very boring. But at least it's not, death metal band 00215 that sounds exactly like Cannibal Corpse, right? It's something at least a little bit different from what I normally hear. And maybe that's encouraging. Maybe there'll be something that actually can shake up that space and make it less stale. But I remember what was the last like style? Gent? That's the like last style I remember really like popping up in metal. Unless you start counting like all the micro genres, like, oh, this is like a micro riff technical death metal. All right, so it's death metal, right? But it's death metal, but the parts are difficult to play. So I haven't heard a lot of that, and maybe you could direct me a little bit to some of that. But I think that's stale because metal has gotten stale. And if we look at the culture in general, let's look outwards, right? Why isn't Angry Video Game Nerd interesting? It's because when everything sucks and everything is the same, the shtick doesn't land anymore. It just doesn't work anymore, right? What happened to all these movie reviewers? Well, movies got stale, so the content got stale, because the content was always downstream of the bigger cultural product, the bigger corporate product of Hollywood movies. So without Hollywood movies being good, the reviews aren't going to be good. There's not going to be much to talk about. There's not going to be much to do. There's not going to be a funny skit to do when there's no new cultural products that anybody cares about. It's going to get stale. Okay. So like the movie review tube from like 10, 15 years ago or whatever, that became stale because movies became stale. Once everything kind of gets crystallized and very predictable, then it becomes hard to do that. And so I don't know what the next big cultural turnover is going to be, or what's going to excite people, or if there will be one. We may be entering what I call the eclectic period, which is that you have many micro genres and many little niche sort of microcultures that make little communities around really specific ideas and don't interact a lot with kind of others. And there's no broader popular culture. Popular culture really did peak towards the end of the 90s, and then we've had a decline since then as far as our ability to have shared cultural experiences. So as we have fewer cultural experiences, it's also more difficult to get a lot of eyes on your content, because there's fewer people who have something in common with you for you to share some sort of information or some sort of moment with. And that's going to be a problem going forward. We don't have Michael Jackson. There's no Michael Jackson of the 21st century. Taylor Swift makes a lot of money, but I can't recall a single Taylor Swift song, and I don't know anyone who can. Whereas even my grandma could sing Michael Jackson songs. That's how big Michael Jackson was. Even my grandma could sing Michael Jackson songs, but we don't have that, we don't have that now. And I haven't seen a big cultural moment in metal in a long time. I keep hearing about Sleep Token. They put me to sleep. They're very boring. So I don't want that to be the cultural moment. I want something exciting. I want another Pantera, but I haven't heard it yet. So maybe it'll change. Leave me your thoughts down below, especially if you're into metal, because I would love to hear your thoughts. Yes, you could check out my guitar channel down below. It's actually, there's no metal on it, right? There's actually like one improvised doom metal piece I did, but anyway, it's all live. I play all the music live. It's all live tracked, multi-track soundscape stuff, ambient guitar stuff. So you can find that down below. You can listen to all my albums there, or on zulonline.bandcamp.com, zulonline.bandcamp.com. You can check out my music there. It's not metal, right? It's stuff that I just was excited and energized to do something in a different direction. Even though I spent years like writing metal that never saw the light of day, it's kind of sad to think about that, but I don't know, if I went back to doing another metal project, it'd have to be super esoteric. It'd have to be really weird, because that's the only way that I could get excited about doing it. It's like, it has to be the opposite of stale. It has to be weird, and that's probably going to make it way more niche, but that's okay. That's okay. That's what would get me excited, is to do something different. But anyway, leave me your thoughts down below, and check out my music channel. And don't forget to visit my Patreon. You get a free book every month, and I will see you all next time. Have a great, great day. And yes, you will get a free copy of Demon Ex Machina by joining my mailing list, dvspress.com/list. And here's a music album, Return. Anyway, guys, I'll see you next time. Have a great, great day.